Hello, everybody. Well, excuse me. Welcome to our Filmmaker Q&A for Animation B, Strange Trips. My name is Ken Seo. I'm one of the board members here at the Damn Short Film Festival and the director of operations. And I am coming to you from our office in beautiful Boulder City. Let's see, I'm not seeing anybody yet. I believe though we have, here we go. 1, 2, 3. How you doing, everybody? Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, I think we had 4 filmmakers scheduled, but we have at least 3 of you here right now, which is great. So let's see. All right, I think what I want to do is start off with, let's go around and have you do an introduction. Let's know the name of your film, who you are, what role you played on that film, and where you're coming to us from. Let's start with Lorraine.
Hi, how are you? I'm coming to you from Ireland, so it's the evening time here for me. So if you look out the window, it's completely dark, whereas I know you guys are in the morning, so you've got a full day ahead of you.
I can't hear you all.
Oh. Can you hear me now? Yeah?
I can't hear anybody.
I got a one thumbs up.
Here's another.
Thanks, Cameron and Max.
All right, I'm having some troubles on my end, guys. I can see it. Can you guys hear each other? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear any of you for some reason, and I have no idea.
Maybe I'm not sure what the best solution is. I don't know if I should keep going.
So I've done 2 of these now, and the first one I had technical difficulties, and I'm having them again today. So I'm just bad luck. This is probably why they never let me do any of these things. Okay, so I don't want to take any more of this time away from you. So what we'll do is you guys can hear me, and hopefully everybody else who's on can hear you guys, and you guys can hear each other. So we're gonna continue on here, and we'll try to figure this out. So we'll start with Lorraine, and Lorraine, just give me a thumbs up when you're done, and then we'll move on from there. Okay.
Great. Okay. Well, I'll try again. So I'm Lorraine Lorden. I'm coming from Ireland, and I'm here with the film A Cat Called Jam. And I wrote and directed it. It was marinating for a really long time before I actually got to make it. So I'm really pleased that I got supported by the Irish National Film Board and spent 2019 working on it. And during 2020, it was a bit of a crazy year, but we still got to do a festival run, but not in the one that we planned. So I am sorry not to be there with you guys in person, but I'm glad that we can make it in this way. So I hope you can enjoy the film. So I'm going to thumbs up.
Okay, good. All right, Max, how about you?
Hi. Yeah, I'm coming from Alexandria, Virginia, near DC. My film is Woodrow and Willow. It's about a reclusive woodworker processing the death of his wife. This was my thesis film at the Rhode Island School of Design, so I just graduated my BFA in animation and graphic design. And that was the culmination of a year's worth of work that led from right before the pandemic to like right a few months into the pandemic. Um, and I was the director and animator on that project.
Okay, Cameron?
Hello, my name is Cameron Carr. Don't let this accent fool you. I am from the UK. Particularly, I am studying animation in Farnham. I am also autistic. My film is called Strange, and it's it's an autobiographical piece about myself as an autistic person. I incorporate mixed media, and I did it in second year. I done half of it when COVID wasn't happening, and the rest I did it at home. So I had to animate some of it at home, and I had the baseline for the story, but it taught me to do some spontaneous improvisation if things didn't go well. And I was everything. I was the sound designer, animator, editor, writer, director, the whole 9 yards, as they say. That's me. Nice to see you all.
Cool. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm still trying to figure this out on my end. Anyway, so everybody else got that. I didn't, but that's okay. I'm the least important out of all of this. Let's see here. All right. I'm not seeing any questions yet. So let me throw out a question for all of you guys. You good? Okay. Can you guys speak to the inspiration for your story for this particular film? What inspired you to for this particular story, and or what's inspired you to actually take that particular story and see it all the way through to produce this short film? And let's start with Lorraine on that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mentioned in the intro that it was a really long time marinating because I actually had the idea 10 years before I started to make it. And it was one of those things where I had the idea while I was in a year off, I was backpacking, and it was my very last stop at the end of my trip. I'd been away for over a year and I was on my way home. And I was just, trying to kind of psych myself up for getting back to kind of normal life. And I was just thinking about how different things were and, how different that I was when I was away versus when I'm at home, where there's like a weight of expectations and, how you're supposed to act and what you're supposed to do. And especially, the progress you're supposed to make in life and just the weight of expectations that people have about you versus what you actually think about yourself. So I was kind of, I was actually swinging in a hammock in Fiji thinking about this before coming back to cold Ireland. And, it kind of came to me about, this little cat who, looks like one thing on the outside, but knows in his heart and soul that he's something else on the inside. And it's the struggle to, show what's inside you to people outside, to the general world, so that they can have a better sense of understanding of who you are. Because I think, there's, it's a really, really hard thing to achieve. So that was the basis of the idea. And the reason that it didn't actually come along for so many years was because I was in quite a lucky position that I had been rolling from project to project, and I'd been working on it in the background. I'd never written anything before myself, so I did a lot of writing courses, and I got a lot of feedback, and I did a lot of drafts, and I went back over it and back over it. And eventually I submitted it to animation scheme that we have here in Ireland with it's Screen Ireland now, but it was the Irish Film Board at the time, and they support animation and short films throughout the year for different timescales, and this seemed to fit, and the timing of it was something that they were kind of really ready to see, and so that's how I actually ended up being in a position to make that. So that's how I spent 2019 then, was actually trying to rally this crowd of people around it. And I ended up working remotely with a lot of people, but it was actually before the pandemic, but it was just because all of the people that I wanted to work with were all over the place. So I kind of got a taster of what was to come. But it was an amazing experience, and I had an amazing team. So I do feel really, really blessed to have that support, because I definitely couldn't have made this film without all of them. So, it was a little taster of the things to come. So I had a bit of a head start. So I was pretty lucky. I'm going to thumbs up.
All right. Hi, Emily. I see you've joined. Just so you know, I'm having technical difficulties on my end. You got all hear me. I can't hear any of you. So we're going to try to fudge our way through this. Okay. So I'm going to take a pause. Max, we'll go to you in a second. Emily, can you just do me a quick favor? Just introduce the name of your film, yourself, what you did on the film, and where you're coming to us from.
Great, yeah. Sorry I'm late. I had some technical issues.
And then give me a thumbs up when you're done.
Okay, cool. I'm Emily, and my film is called My Dream, My Taste, and I was a director, animator, and designer, and made the whole thing. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. All right, Max, I'm going to pass it over to you if you want to talk about the inspiration behind the story of your short.
Yeah, so a lot of my films often involve very subtle character emotions. Like, that's what I'm interested in animating, and I think sort of by osmosis with like lots of different people around me, whether they were in my own life or close to other people I knew, there were people who were going through different stages of grief, whether that was passing of a loved one or an elderly relative dealing with Alzheimer's, or various different things like that. So it was just something that was on my mind, and sort of talking to the people and being myself, like dealing with those emotions. And I thought it would be interesting to have a film that sort of centered on one couple, and the wife has passed and the husband is left to sort of reconcile with these emotions, missing the one person who he would normally bounce these feelings off of and who would ground him in this moment. So it's sort of a journey of connecting with the memory of his wife and allowing that memory to sort of be the thing that brings back the different traits that he loved about her, and how those traits can sort of help him to heal and be comfortable with this experience. And I mentioned this briefly, but this was my thesis project. So at the beginning of the year, I had sketches of this big lumberjack man, and my father does woodworking on the side, and I've done some of that with him. So that was also on my mind, and I was drawing like little wooden knives and tools, and interested in how that was the people who often gravitate towards that craft are like men in their 50s and up, and that's also sort of a demographic that we often associate with being very emotionally cloistered and having trouble dealing with these, or at least outwardly expressing these issues. Oh, Ken, do you have audio now? I think I was coming through. Anyway, I'm going to turn mine down. Sorry about that. Having trouble dealing with these. Yeah, so I wanted to just center on this character that we wouldn't expect to be able to sort of have this sort of emotional breakthrough, and just show a glimpse of that, like slowly opening up for him, and seeing his wife in spirit supporting him through that.
Cameron, same question.
All right. Well, you would have done like 10 years, like fermenting on the idea, like you were saying. For me, when you're born autistic, you have it throughout your whole life. It doesn't really change except your emotional and mental intelligence, and obviously your physicality. Yeah. So basically, it's a story I wanted to tell since I was small. In fact, I was nonverbal. I'm classically autistic. I don't have Asperger's or anything. I wasn't diagnosed with that kind of stuff. So I had to communicate through drawing because I could think in pictures, and then naturally that led me to animation. So Strange is not just about myself. It's also about my friends. So it's not just me, and basically, it's specifically about me moving to Farnham and going to university. And, I mainly come from private school, for disabilities like autism. So moving to almost like a public school, I guess it's specialist because it's art related. It's specifically art, UCA Farnham, but generally it's a public place. There's a lot more people. Usually you'd get like 10 people in class in my private school, but this you get like 20, 30, if not more. And yeah, my friends, they helped me along the way, and I also have my unique coping mechanisms. My headphones, for example, they have noise cancellation because I'm quite sensitive to loud noises, piercing noises. In fact, in the film, I visualize it in animation, but I describe it like being punched in the ear, and showing that with sound waves. So literally, it's like Street Fighter, Street Fighter 2, where they use a power move or something, but it's shown like a blue fist, like a ghost or something, punching my ear until I put on the noise cancellation. Yeah, I hope that made sense. Thanks for listening.
Okay, so I finally got this figured out on my end. Thanks for Lee for coming down and saving me. Of course, it was a simple fix, so I feel really silly now. Anyway, thanks, Cameron. Appreciate that. So, Emily, same question to you. Just want to ask what your inspiration behind the story of your film, or what inspired you to carry this through and actually make this short.
Great, thank you. Well, mine's slightly different because I was asked by the Sacred podcast to make an animation based on one of their audio clips. So I like kind of went through a few different clips and kind of listened for the one that spoke to me visually and like I resonated with. So in the end, the one that really stood out to me was this clip where a theologian called Miroslav Volf is talking, and he talks about kind of how we all search for the good life and how it's kind of shifted from being like more communal to being kind of everyone quite individualized, like focusing on their own world that they want to build, and how that's affecting our society and things. So that really resonated with me, and as I listened to that audio piece, I just had loads of visuals came to mind of how to like explore what he's saying further. And so made kind of this story visually, where there's kind of a young girl who's in her room building this world with her toys and things, and she kind of gets so sucked in that everything's about kind of what following her dreams and her desires and fantasies, and kind of she ends up being completely out of the real world, and I really wanted to play with that visually, like taking her up to space basically. But the idea is that the more she just pursues her own dreams, the more she becomes detached from reality, and eventually that bursts, and she's kind of pummeled back into reality, and has to see all the other people around her that also are searching for that too, and to reach out to them. So that was kind of two sides of what inspired me, but mainly comes from the audio piece, and then I explored that visually.
Sorry, forgot I was muted. So a lot of the Q&As that have happened so far, one of the questions that's kind of come up, and I thought this would be a kind of an interesting take to see how different it was for those who are doing animated versus live action. But a lot of, with the Q&As, we've talked a lot about the effect of the pandemic and COVID and how it's had on, filmmaking. So I was very curious to see if that has affected the animation at all. So kind of my first question would be, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, were your films completed before the pandemic started or after the pandemic started? But show of hands, who did it? Whose film was like during the pandemic? Okay, and then Lorraine and Emily, so both, and Lorraine, you pre. Okay, so my question then, kind of, I guess, to Max and Cameron, I guess, did you find that the pandemic had any effect on the production of this, or was this, was it easier? Well, not say easier, but do you think that there was no effect at all, and it was like maybe because of the pandemic, producing animation was something that was, again, I'm going to say easier, but unaffected, if you will. Just if you want to briefly kind of touch on any issues you may have come up with, or any differences that you may have seen doing this project during this pandemic. We'll start with you, Max.
Yeah, I mean, the very first thing I'll say is I think we ended up in a much better spot than live action, just because at the end of the day, you can get an animator in one room with their own space and laptop, and they can be working. Whereas, you need these crews of people around. But, there's still, I think, like with everything, like these shifts in how we have to go about doing the work. One of the benefits I had working on this at school was both a studio space and just a suite of peers who are around to like look over my shoulder. If I was doing something, I could ask them a question about it, and I'd do the same for them. So that sort of rebuilding of a community is a very different task during the pandemic, and I think is a really worthwhile one when you're in a field like this, because usually you have so many hands on one of these kinds of creative endeavors. And I think even like with something like the film festival right now, we're like doing this remotely. It's cool that we have all these different people from all these different time zones right now all talking to each other. But it's still just a totally different experience of like figuring out how to communicate with people. So I think that was the level, that was one thing I felt the most. I was lucky enough that like I had to pack up quickly and come home and stuff, and that luckily went over fine for me personally. I know it was tricky for a lot of my my peers, and I had just gotten far enough in projection. Like I'd been doing a lot of hand animation, and just because I'm getting used to a tablet still, so I wanted these like in-person studios to do that, and I just finished drawing everything by the time the pandemic started. So then I was able to bring it home and edit in color and things in After Effects, and I'm lucky that I was at that point. You know, I would have been able to find something else, but it's just like, I think that's a much smaller version of trying to like think on the fly. I think the biggest thing that got affected was my audio design. I was trying to find the most muffled closet in my room to like hopefully, you know, work as a soundtrack, and like shaking quinoa around instead of like a big rain stick, things like that. So it went all right, but it was definitely felt, you know, like it has small ripples through every part of the production.
Well, I'm quite lucky because, I mean, well, for starters, animators in general are quite lucky because they can mostly do, you know, if they have the right equipment, if they have the right, I guess, as Max was saying, like a DIY kind of studio, like a closet to do some sound, or in my case, I'm doing a stop motion film, Vavel Dragon, and I set myself a little set, blue screen, some lights, camera, and all that stuff. You know, unfortunately, most students, for example, at my uni, they don't have that access. You know, because most of them. I mean, I live with my parents at the moment because my family and I own an independent like bookshop cafe called the Blue Bear Bookshop. So, and you know, I'm like 2 or 3 minutes away walking to my university. So again, I'm quite fortunate. So in regards to Strange, of course, you know, I have a computer at home. In fact, you could say it hasn't affected me that much because I mainly animate at home. It's quiet, it's nice. I don't get disrupted by people too much. But I love their sound booths, you know, and you know, it's a great little place. You can record, you can voice act. I was the narrator for the film, but I also invited my friends to record their bits. According to my direction and script and so on and so forth. And, you know, that was really fun, good experience. And of course, when you don't have access to that anymore, or if you don't have a DIY closet, yeah, again, it left me to improvise and come up with like creative solutions on the spot, which normally you wouldn't necessarily do with animation, except I guess stop motion, because with stop motion, it's like a split personality between a filmmaker, like, oh, maybe I should try this lighting or this camera angle, but then another side of you is saying, well, I built this character and I'm going to animate this character because it's not like a live action, oh, shoot, go, done. Like it takes hours to animate the character. So yeah, my point is, it hasn't really changed too much for me. In fact, in Strange, I talk about things like, for example, I don't really like handling like money, like cash, because of like germs and stuff. I like to use my contactless credit card when I purchase things. Again, another autistic little thing, I guess. And now everyone's doing it, and now everyone's also social distancing. You know, it's. I think I was made for. I was ready for this apocalypse. So I don't know. I'm quite fortunate personally. Everyone's different, and of course, you know, we all go through tough times. But I think, in a strange way, the strange is now the new normal. And I also hope that, you know, all my animations are, you know, happy and they bring the, you know, life into people, because that's why I'm making Vavel Dragon, which by the way is an adaptation of a Polish folklore. And you know, I'm half Polish, and I wanted to, and I love Krakow. That's where the story originated, and that's where the story is told. And yeah, I'm gonna stop now. I promise. Thank you.
Thanks, Cameron. Emily, you said yours carried over a little bit into the pandemic. Did you run into any issues at all?
Yeah. So, well, again, like everyone said, with animation, it was fine. I do 2D animation, could work from home quite easily, so I was grateful for that. But I think my issue was I started the kind of concept and the storyboarding and the animatic like before the pandemic happened. And because it's kind of a documentary and the topics he's talking about are about kind of the real world and how we live as a society. I think I started to think, oh no, maybe it's not relevant anymore. You know, maybe what he's saying is because everything changed hugely, as we all know, the way we see the world. And I was like, oh, you know, he's talking about this sort of chasing after your dreams, and yet everyone's suddenly having all their dreams cancelled at the same time. So that was when I was like, oh, is this going to work? But actually, when I continued to pursue it, I realized that actually a lot of it kind of like the pandemic did kind of answer those questions that the film raises in some way. And it was interesting because I designed all the scenes and everything before the pandemic, but the final shot is like, well, the whole film is based with this girl just in her room, isolated on her own, and she's not leaving the full four walls of her room. And at the end, she opens the window and looks out and sees everyone else in their rooms. And I think I was suddenly like, oh wow, I designed that before, but actually it really resonates in a different way now, which I hadn't expected. So that was quite interesting. So yeah, it kind of it made me go through this whole dip of like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work, but I think in the end it still works, hopefully.
That's really kind of cool how you started out with an idea before this, but then you got the unique opportunity of seeing how it would relate to a completely different world after you started. So that's interesting. It kind of brings me into my next question a little bit. Myself and Lee Lanier, I don't know if you guys got a chance to meet Lee at all. He's the co-founder. He was actually the face that kind of popped in and helped me with my technical difficulties here. Lee and I both come from an animation background. So usually when, in a typical year, we have the festival here in Boulder live. If we don't have any filmmakers, usually Lee and I go up on the stage and entertain any questions because we both have that background in film, and then or we usually fight over who's going to be the host of the animation. This year we had 2 blocks, so Lee was generous enough because he programmed both of the blocks, so he was generous enough to say, all right, Ken, I'll let you host one of them. But because of that, these are always for Lee and I 2 of our favorite programs to watch. It's always interesting to see what's out there and the new technology and stuff like that. But the question I'm getting to now is I kind of want to ask what are you guys working on now? What's the next step for you? Are you in the middle of a project already? Do you have an idea? Is your next project going to be an animation? Are you staying with the same format that you used, or are you branching into something different? So if you want to kind of touch on that and give us a little bit of what your what's in the future for you. So Lorraine, let's start off with you.
Well, I mentioned it that it took me a really long time to get to making the film, and the reason it took me so long was because I was working so much, and I've been really blessed to have that continuous work. And I actually had to turn down projects to make this because it was really important to me. Because up until that point, I had been doing all these jobs where I was like supervising or assistant director or different things like that. But I was having trouble getting into that director's chair. And because I was known for being like safe pair of hands, I was an animation supervisor. You could give Lorraine the animation department and they'll get it done, or she's great, a right-hand woman. I was having this really difficult time making that next step, so I decided to actually take a time out and do this project for myself, as much for myself as to show people, look, this is what is something that I really feel passionately about, and is something that I want to show the world. So that's why I've been working on Jam kind of behind the scenes all of that time. So after Jam was finished, so I didn't. I literally just made it in before the end of the pandemic, before the beginning of the pandemic, But the funny thing is, I had almost a pandemic experience, because in Ireland right now, or even at that time, the Irish animation industry was so strong, it was really difficult to get animators. So I was having to look further afield, and I worked with animators from all over the world. We were doing this whole pandemic experience where, you know, I was having Skype calls, I was doing it by emails, and so that was the challenge for me was, you know, same as everybody else, is because people aren't in the same room. You have to be the central nervous system and like put all of the messages out, all these people who aren't talking to each other, keep everybody on the same page, and like, you know, have the same vision for the film. So that was something that really, like, I really bought into as a director. So that's something that I'd really like to take forward as I'm going into, you know, potentially another film. Right now, when I came off of making Jam, I actually went back to being assistant director on a feature film, but that was good because it kind of gave me a chance to, every time you work with somebody, you really learn a lot from them, because everybody has their own way of doing things. And even if it's not necessarily the way that you would do things, you can still learn something from that. And why is it that they work that way and you don't? And what can you take from that that might improve your way of learning? So right now I'm an assistant director on a feature film, but I'm tinkering away with a story on the background. So hopefully in another couple of years, that one will be coming around as well. So two little things on the burners.
Cool. I didn't catch earlier because I didn't have the sound working, but you're calling in from Ireland?
I am, yes.
Okay. I have a connection there with some animation in Ireland. I don't want to get too much into it, but we may know some of the same people. So maybe later on we could connect and talk about that.
That would be cool. I'm a bit of a loner before the pandemic, though. So you'll be saying all these people, and you're like, how can you not know them? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm the person in my bedroom in Emily's phone.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Lorraine. All right. Max?
Yeah, I'm currently working on a animated music video that should be done by the end of March. And that is with someone, Brown University is right up the hill from RISD, and they had found me on Instagram, and there was a mutual friend, so he just saw my work there and reached out to me, and that's been going well. It's been fun because I totally enjoyed having the very self-directed animation, but it's nice having more of an assignment too. So we did a bunch of pre-production stuff, and now we're like halfway through animation. And otherwise, I have a script on the back burner for when I have some more time, like something dialogue heavy, since there was just little grunts from Woodrow in this film, so I wanted to get some more writing in there. But yeah, that's what's on my docket.
Cool. Again, I missed out in the beginning. You're calling from Rhode Island? Are you?
I'm in Alexandria, Virginia, but I was in school in Rhode Island.
Okay. Born and raised in Rhode Island. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Max. Cameron?
Hello again. As I've mentioned already, I'm working on a third-year film. Like, it's sort of like my grad film, Vavel Dragon, stop motion. Thumbs up. Do you want to see the puppet I have? It's just there. Do you want to see it? Like, it's the main character. It's Scuba. Do you want to see it? Thumbs up.
Sure.
All right. 1 second. This is the main character. He's kind of a scruffy, like, unassuming character. He's a shoemaker, and this guy, he has a posable mouth. He's got a magnetic eyebrows, and he's got like little pupils that I use what's called a daub stick, and you move the pupil so he can look left to right, like that. And he's got posable fingers, full of articulation, and of course there's the rig. But yeah, he's the unassuming main character. And he's the one that defeats the dragon by lacing a fake sheep that he just cobbled together. Get it? Cobbler? Cobbled? Yeah, he puts it together in his workshop in his little cottage, and he laces it with gunpowder or sulfur, which surprisingly was quite common in medieval times. Every household had one of those, I guess, for fire or something. Well, anyway, so that way he would leave the sheep, the fake sheep, outside the dragon's cave, and then when the dragon eats it, it's too spicy, so he basically drinks from the river, and he goes bigger and bigger, and then he explodes, and he saves the day. He saves Krakow, and to this day, the dragon bones are in the Wawel Cathedral, like where the Wawel Castle is, which is where half the story takes place with another character, Princess Wanda. So yeah, that's the character, and I plan to do many more puppets. It's quite an ambitious, epic project, I do admit, and I do plan to make it more, excuse me, visual storytelling. So like, hopefully, like roughly under 5 minutes. You're not allowed to go over 5 minutes unless they really want you to. Like, oh yeah, no, this should be a 6-minute film, but no more than that, really. So yeah, that's my film. That's what I'm working on. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Cameron. Emily, how about yourself?
Well, sadly, I don't have any cool puppets to show. That was really fun. But yeah, well, the pandemic kind of pushed me and my friend to set up a 2D animation studio. So we co-direct that at the moment. And we're working on a few commercial projects every now and again, which has been really good. But other than that, I am working on a film that I've written and animated as well, or I'm currently animating it, which is again a bit more of a documentary based on some research about worldviews and how each individual views the world and how that's shaped by the way we're brought up or different surroundings and things. So that's quite fun to explore through animation because it deals a lot with how we might see things really differently and things like that. And that kind of research is done by this think tank called Theos, so I'm working with them on that. But yeah, really enjoying that. I'm grateful to be able to have those things going on, and I think, yeah, as everyone's already said, as animators, we're very fortunate that we can do it when other people's jobs have not been going. So yeah, I'm lucky to still be doing stuff.
Cool. Well, we're just about out of time here for this Q&A, but you know, I want to say I really enjoyed all of your work, and thank you so much for submitting your films to our festival. I hear, well, not just me, all of us wish you all the best of luck in the future, and I really hope that we see something again from all of you in the future here at the Damn Short Film Festival. So keep sending us your work. It's awesome, and we really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us with this Q&A. We also appreciate that. I hope you guys get something out of it, and hope you guys have enjoyed the films. And if you haven't finished watching them, still got a few more days to get them in. So anyway, thank you very much, guys. It was really
thank you. It was nice seeing everybody. You're all passionate, intelligent, wonderful people. I hope we can stay in contact. We should trade Instagram things or emails or something. We got to do that, I think. I didn't mean to hijack Ken, by the way. We should contact each other too.
You guys.
No, it's just great. Like listening to you guys, and you're just like, you got all these like great ideas, and you're still doing projects and like really impressive stuff. Yeah, we should stay in contact. My Instagram is called Super Wolfman on the account that I'm very hairy. So it's spelled like one thing. Just Super Wolfman Instagram. You should be able to find it. I post little things, and I also have a separate thing for Wawel Dragon as well. But don't worry about that. Whatever. No, it was really great. Thank you again, Ken, for accepting our films.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Oh wow!
Oh
wow! Already followed. Damn, you guys are fast. Jesus Christ! All right, well, have a great one, everybody. It was really great. I had a great time.
Congratulations.
Thank you again.
So much.